What?
Ready to go?
Yes.
So good evening. It's Wednesday, October 4th at 7 o'clock, and we're here for the City of Westminster Historic District Commission meeting. It's our monthly meeting here at City Hall at 1838 Emerald Hill Lane in Westminster. Want to welcome everyone. And we're going to start with our statement of authority. The Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, Article 9 of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction, Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street, and the file is open to the public. I'd like to start with a quick roll call of officials present. First, Chris McMaster's chair.
Kevin Wagman.
And Mark Feeble, the Director of Community Planning and Development.
And we do have a quorum.
Yes.
So let's start with our approval of our minutes. Mark, do you want to say anything? We got a little behind on these.
Yes, we did. I apologize, but we have a lot of minutes to go over.
Can I make a recommendation that we consider items A through F on blocks and accept them? I did find an error for September 2023, but the rest, if the other commissioners have read the minutes and accept them, we could entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we accept that as written, except for the adjustment you might propose.
Second. All right, so I did take a look at them. I'm assuming you all did items A through F. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Then those are all approved. Item G, September 2023. I just noticed that Josh was not in the attendees list. And he did come a minute or two late, and he did make a motion or two for that meeting, so we really do need to include him as present.
Okay.
Do we approve it with that change? Do we have any other changes? I guess that's a question. Any other time?
I then make a motion, we accept the changes.
That is a motion. Can we do that, Mark? Can we
Yes. Yep.
accept the minutes with that change, and then I'll sign a subsequent copy.
Yes.
All right. Any questions? All in favor?
I
None opposed. There we go. Caught up on our minutes. Old business. Let's talk a little bit about the Historic District Commission interpretation plan. We are eagerly awaiting our grant application to the Maryland Historic Trust for non-capital resurveying funds, so we can look at our historic district, which is going to be 50 years old soon, and update that information, improve the little holes that we might have, and get it digitized and get it on a phone app. So you can walk down the street and ask, what about this building? And what about that building? You can do your own tours. You don't have to stick to a numbered tour. You just ask a question and poof, it should pop. I trust that you haven't heard anything yet, since they aren't going to announce it, as far as I know, till November 1.
That's all I've heard, exactly.
Okay, great. So this is all part of a larger plan for reconsidering ways of improving our preservation in the city. And Mark, last meeting, we heard a little bit about a new city management plan. Can you update us on where we are on that?
We're looking at the downtown master plan, specifically the historic district would be within this master plan, and it's an RFP for consultants. That the hope would be that we come up with more of an implementation strategy for redevelopment in downtown. I think we have enough information from past studies, and we're wrapping up a parking study and other information. I think we have the initial feedback, conceptual idea of what we're going to do downtown, and we want to move more and more to an implementation plan.
So have we got an RFP on the streets yet?
No, we do not. We're drafting that right now.
Do we have a base understanding of what the schedule may be?
Not this time, no.
I guess the last question that's occurred to me since last month is that we wrote our implementation plan as an addition to the existing management plan for the city. And we wonder how we could assure that those implementation recommendations drafted by this commission will go on block into the new plan. And is that even a reasonable request? Is the new plan going to use the same plan as a base?
It's two things. We have a comprehensive plan, a citywide comprehensive plan that has goals, objectives, and that's what you're referring to with the implementation plan, which is the strategy put together.
Mm-hmm.
Those elements are certainly used to create, it's more like a special study or study area plan.
Okay.
And we're just zooming in on this defined boundary of how we want to potentially see development in this area. But certainly anything we come up with that implementation plan or design, we'll be using comprehensive plan as a guide, as well as the design preference manual, as well as the historic renovation document that HTC has. So all those, again, I think we have a good concept of what we want to see. This is the next step of how we actually see the redevelopment of downtown.
Does that mean we won't do another comprehensive plan soon?
Yes, we will. We have it used to be 6 years, now it's 10 years. So my hope would be to get the zoning ordinance first prior to the comprehensive plan. The last time the comprehensive plan came back to the planning commission, they essentially found that all the elements of the comprehensive plan are still valid. They're all what we desire, what the city envisioned. Not sure much would change the comprehensive plan. So, but ultimately we will have to do one.
But so our entire implementation plan, however, was geared to go into that comp plan. And
No, the implementation plan was to was more of a, you were implementing the comprehensive plan
Right.
goals and objectives. So that's the overarching ideas of the comprehensive plan. Then you create these implementation strategies, and that's similar to what this master plan would be,
okay,
an implementation plan. And certainly what comes out of that and study and information, I'm sure will match up a lot with the information strategies you guys came up with as well.
you know, say, so how do we, for example, I can envision a new implementation of development that's including things like demolition. And we have some very strongly thought out demolition ideas. Is that where that would slide in?
I envision that, yes, it would be a guide to development. That would be the hope. That would look at certain properties in certain areas for potential redevelopment. We have several properties that the city actually owns as well that are underdeveloped. As you know, parking lots, Stockdale property, that would be also included in any type of strategy we have for redevelopment.
Because I'm trying to attenuate, you know, our longer term goals with the planning process to kind of begin to add more underpinning to our preservation footprint. And so it's, I guess I didn't understand the difference between that comp plan and this development focused plan and how we could get our implementation plans better attenuated now to both.
Well, I would see that anything that's identified for redevelopment would take into account your implementation strategies and the HTC input. And the value of that property as well. I don't think it's an oversweeping plan to overdevelop downtown Westminster or really demolition so much. It's where we see ourselves in the future as we move forward for development downtown.
Okay.
Well, also doesn't the development at downtown depend on water?
Yes,
Big, so that is more a priority water than if we had water, then we can address other issues. Maybe, or are they simultaneously done.
And it will be simultaneously done. Certainly any type of redevelopment we're looking at, we'd have to consider the amount of water we have remaining and what is appropriate use and how much water would that use to require. So that would all be part of anything we look for the downtown area. We do have more water. We did redo the master distribution chart for water. We added 150,000 gallons. We have a wastewater program that I believe is 500,000 gallons, and that's 3 to 4 years out. So we are getting that point where, you know, potential redevelopment can happen not only downtown, but citywide. With this additional potential water, but again, it is an important resource, it's a finite resource, and we want to make sure whatever we do plan out, it's taking that into account, the amount of water we have available.
Do you have any other questions by the commissioners? Kevin, anything? Well, thank you for that update. It helps me understand more about how we get some of our pieces of our implementation plan considered. Okay, good. Next is the National 250th anniversary. And we do have a date, don't we, of when we're going to be meeting next?
I thought somebody was supposed to send a Google poll.
I thought we did.
I thought that was done,
I
yeah.
think that was done, and it's soon.
And we are to meet an hour earlier to discuss the 250 anniversary planning.
I can't recall the date, but I believe we're trying, Abby Gruber will be coming to the meeting as well.
Yeah, I don't think it was the first, because I know some of us can't be here. And that was actually a concern what to talk about later this evening.
I'll make sure Melissa gets out an email to the Historic District Commission tomorrow about the time
That'd be good.
and just reconfirm attendance, reaffirm attendance.
Right. Good. All right, new business. We're gonna review the architectural elevations of the 4-unit multiple family dwelling and use at 288 East Main Street. The city's going to present.
Thank you. I'm not going to go into too much of the history. It's already in the staff report, and I think we're fully aware of the 288 East Main Street, the demolition project. But just briefly, the principal structure that was at the property was demolished. The existing one-story brick accessory structure, which you can see in the back of that picture, was retained. It was located actually behind that principal structure that was demolished. It was recommended by city staff that any new development of the property should make every effort to reuse the logs of the log cabin incorporated into the existing main building. Unfortunately, that did not occur. I believe all the units of the log cabin have been removed from the property and would not be incorporated into this plan. And that the existing main building shall meet the requirements of the City of Westminster 2016 Development Design Preferences and the Westminster Historic District Commission Design Guidelines, and also incorporate elements of the standards of renovation of Westminster. And in addition to that, that's where the discussion began of any new development happening downtown should at least have a referral to the Historic District Commission, which is why we're here today. Again, the property 288 East Main, you can see the star, which was the original structure. You can see the smallest structure to the rear, and that's the only development of the property. If you look at old maps, there used to be additional structures on the property, but have long since been removed. 280 East Main Street is zoned DB, Downtown Business Zone, and the applicant has submitted a site development plan for a two-story, 4-apartment building. And multifamily isn't allowed use in BP zone. Ultimately, the site development plan would go to the plan, is regarding the planning commission for review and approval. The applicant, and let me just go over the site plan real quick. So you can see the new apartment building, essentially in the same location as the original building. It's pushed up along East Main Street. You can see the existing structure, the accessory structure to the rear being maintained. Parking behind that with access to South Street and refuse or garbage cans in this rear location. It's approximately 2,162 square feet building and 31 feet in height. And according to the site plan, there are no lighting or signage proposed for the property. The applicant has provided black and white renderings for the proposed multifamily dwelling, which are in the packet, and I did provide handouts for you, not only of the proposed building, but also of the previous building that was existing. Just quickly, after just general review and a comparison to the 2016 Development Design Preference Manual, the elevations did not meet those standards. There's several elements for multi-unit projects where building height should be varied and building facades should provide offsets. Boxy and monotonous building facades are discouraged. Distinctive architectural elements, materials, and colors should be used to denote primary building entries or individual unit entries. Roof lines should be segmented and varied. Varied heights are encouraged. Awnings, moldings, plasters, and comparable architectural embellishments are encouraged. Building materials should be durable, low maintenance, and relate a sense of quality and permanence. Building elements should be unified by textures, colors, and materials. And materials should be consistently applied. Piecemeal embellishments and frequent changes in materials should be avoided. And exterior materials, architectural details should complement each other and be stylistically consistent. Now, it's a lot, and it also looks specific about trying to use elements and materials that you find downtown already in the historic district. With that, staff has recommended the Historic District Commission review the site plan elevations for 288 East Main Street for renovations and provide feedback to the Westminster Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm available with any questions.
So I think one thing that might be important is that there's a list of variances that I just heard from the developmental design preferences. And some of them I could deal with those variances. For example, the footprint of the building is where the footprint of the building is. No offsets could be expected from that historic footprint. However, other things like consistent materials, like it was brick, it should be brick again. I think that's an important feature to stick with. And I would really like to see a listing of the variances and then what this plan is proposing. So if we're going to vary from something, let's see what it's proposing, and then it would be easier to go down that listing and say that's acceptable.
Yep.
Does that sound like clear direction?
Are you asking them to come back before you or go over these
I would think
individually
that
tonight?
frankly, with so many variances, it's going to be super hard for any of us to do a thumbs up, thumbs down. And especially not knowing if they can be addressed. Maybe some of them are just non-starters, like moving the building off the street. But maybe some of them can easily be addressed and even be, dismissed before we have another review.
Well, it's not so much moving the building off the street. The building should be pushed up to the street. That's not the issue. When you talk about changes in facade, it's just not a flat facade. You will have some levels of change in that flat facade. Again, it's not required, but that is it is a standard that's looked at when you're looking at these buildings, and then, of course, you take everything into account, the size, bulk of the building as well. The length of that facade. So the concept is that you're trying to avoid just a flat base. Any type of undulation or change. Also in the roof line or, dormers or other things that might help break up the roof line and the massing. So you're looking at other elements. It talks about, instead of just base windows, you have some treatment around the windows, especially around the entrance doors. There should be some detail, and not only the front facade, but actually carry along the entire building, especially for this site and the visibility of the rear from public way as well as the side. And then obviously carrying the brick throughout the facade as well is what's looked at.
Because this looks like literally vinyl siding.
And that's, we believe it's being proposed vinyl siding, both the floor and
Can I speak up
back
about
and
that?
side.
Because the place right next door is all siding right around it.
That doesn't mean it's optimal. And if we have an opportunity to do what's better for the historic district, we would be going with that.
Because I would have, if I kept that building, it would have been all siding and you guys would have had no say on that. Am I correct?
There are various reasons why we might have input, but those are all hypotheticals.
Well, I was told from the county that I had had no inspections warned the siding. So I bought a whole bunch of siding I can't use now. That I wanted to use on the side and the back side. That's what I was hoping.
I understand. We're just responding what's best for the city and for the historic district.
And the original building that was there, half of the front was brick, and the other half was clapboard siding. It was wood,
It was wooden siding, not vinyl.
okay, but it was clapboard. So to say that the entire building should be brick really doesn't go along with what was it.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
So that's a possible area where there can be some variation in the design of the facade.
It doesn't only look at what was there and trying to replace it. This is new development.
Oh, I know.
The building's been demoed, so this is new development, and you have new standards of new development. You had brick on the side of the old building. So again, if you look at the design preference manual, which you want to develop to meet the standards, we're looking at better material, matching some of the materials downtown that are more historic in value or nature versus just newer, modern type of material. So it's not so much trying to replace and redo what was there. That's fine. This is new development and you're subject to the requirements of site development plan and the preference manual.
Great. All right, do we have any questions or concerns from our commissioners? Anything else staff should advise us of?
No, ultimately, we need to take this to planning commission. I don't know if it's more beneficial to hear if you're in favor of some of these elements that design preference manual states, are you not? And it would be helpful guidance, what maybe some discussion from the applicant, if you're asking them to meet this, and that ultimately is your recommendation, that it should be more consistent to the 2016 design preference manual.
Absolutely. And I think it's really incumbent upon the folks to tell us where they're varying. I mean, I think that list of variances and how many things are out of step with our design standards. It's really important on paper to see what's being asked versus what's being assumed. And then how can we address those variances?
My 2 cents would be have them go before BCA first and see what they say. They know more about new requirements than we do, and we then could filter in the requirements for historic district before we approve. Let them start the ball but
I think we're gonna
that's,
lose our voice on the history if we go through the BZA first.
It's not, I'm sorry, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission. So they would go planning, now the thing is, with Planning and Zoning Commission, the staff is gonna state they need to meet these to the Planning and Zoning Commission, or they need to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission for relief of these elements. First, this versus what staff is gonna be suggesting. So that's, I think, we're looking at some feedback from the Historic District Commission to provide to the Planning and Zoning Commission as to whether these elements are preferred, which ones aren't, it certainly helps the Planning Commission make their determination as to which elements they would be acceptable to allow them to be modified.
So why are we out for an itemized list of variants?
And that's why we handle it at this level before it goes any further.
so I'm simple minded. If we are asking that, that should be the first thing before we even review any more of this. In my 2 cents.
We want to know what the variances are being asked from our design standards.
And again, I don't want talk, I want something written so we can go back to refer to it, positive or negative.
I don't understand, hasn't staff already listed what the variances are?
That's
That's
what
in the report.
the preferences, I am listing the elements of the preference manual that this building should adhere to.
All right, let's take a different look at it. So we realize there are elements, but we don't have a listing of what's in conflict with our development design preferences. And there may be a few things that our folks here aren't aware that are in conflict and can easily be addressed. And so that's why I'm looking for a check sheet of those things that are variances. And if there's 20 variances, maybe 2 or 3 of them are less important than the other 16 or 17. But it's important to see that list and see, how out of whack are we with this proposal compared to our design outcome and desired outcome for new development.
I mean, you're right, it's a process that I understand.
Right.
On a positive note, I want to comment positively on all the different pictures of documentation. It shows a lot of things, and that was good. I go there a lot because I go bi-monthly next door for massage. So over the years, I know the building. There was one thing I read that it was occupied since 2008 or 6 or something like that. I disagree. There was a person who lived in there all the time. His parents owned it.
I know more about that. Sam, the gray van, he lived in the actual van. And just plugged his power into the house.
Which what I thought was funny. The BGNE records don't show anything in there, and the water says there was no water and sewer there for 20 years.
Yeah, being used.
So I think it has no electricity, BGNE wise. How could he?
Yeah, about here. Yeah, when I bought the place, it was 1 meter in.
Was it working?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I don't know that for a fact. We can also recommend getting records from BGNE on that, because they would have all the records. I thought, yes, I knew he lived in the van, but also he used the house.
But be that as it may, there are a couple of things in the historic reference information that, you know, we're missing a set of maps that Sanborns were supposed to be consulted and, you know, to me, this is still an acceptable report as is. It's what is being proposed that I need to see the variances on.
And when I did consult the Sanborn maps, and I think I told you this, Chris, they really did not have a good record of all the different outbuildings that were on the site.
No, that was a big thing we wanted to know, but I think in my future historic structure reports, I'll just ask for them all those images for each property over time to be listed. So that there isn't an assumption nobody ever looked, because it's not addressed. You know, you told me, and that's good, nice, but it should have been in the report so that, you know.
It lists the materials.
I guess I
that the buildings
could have
were-
included it and said, these were of no use whatsoever.
Exactly. We did consult them, boom, 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 and this is what you say.
And I'm sorry, Chris, what were you?
I was gonna say, well, even if they didn't list certain buildings or outbuildings, it's still, the Sanborn map still lists the materials that whatever buildings exist on that map. It shows you the materials. Brick, yeah,
Yeah,
brick, wood, stone,
because they're farmhouse.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, at least it shows that.
Yeah, and there's another address where really the Sanborns don't have any buildings because they were so recent. You know, and that would have been something worth noting. You know, this belonged to some other property. But be that as it may, I still think we need a list.
Going back to the half was brick and the rest was wooden siding. That is, I would think, German siding. So that
no,
was it last
it was plain.
plain last.
Plain clapboard siding, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't a German siding, drop siding profile.
Well, can we get a list of variances?
Sure.
I think it needs to be recorded and considered. All right, anything else on this topic? All right, great. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. On to IT. So we have conference coming up for our next HCD meeting, and I know we will not be available. Both Chris and I have conflicts going, and November is shaping up to be an important month.
And Grace had a conflict also.
Yeah, so I think we need to consider what we're gonna do, and I brought this up for the last couple of months. We need now a date for next month. Did you bring your calendar, Kevin?
So here.
It's up here. And you've got yours? Yeah. And do you have yours, Mark?
But quickly, for the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area meeting, is that, will we be attending, is HTC, or the entire HTC attending?
Yes,
Okay,
I would ask them to.
so.
It's in Frederick though.
Yes, are you aware that it's in Frederick?
I'm aware of it because I'm planning it, but I'm aware of it because I'm planning it. It's my swan song. It's my last night of being president of the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. I'm handing the bugle over to Sean Butcher, who's going to be the new president, and we've got a really high level guy speaking to us, and so we're going to have like 20 minutes of business meeting, annual business meeting, just enough to say, here's the new officers. This is all the great stuff we did. Be sure and give us money. Now here's a headliner. And so it's gonna be a much more fun meeting. We expect 300 people.
Yeah, and we just want to make sure we have enough tickets, and then you get a ticket, so I'm not worried about your.
I haven't really gotten the ticket yet.
Really,
It keeps rejecting my email for some reason. So-
So is Grace going? Does she want to go?
I don't know if she is going.
But Kevin is a yes, Chris, yes.
Going.
I am going.
You are?
I am.
Fabulous.
Are you saying that? Yes.
I'm not even sure, remind me of that, I'm sorry, I've been so absorbed with archives. Remind me of the date.
November 1, when we would normally be here.
Oh, no, I see, that's the gap, I can't,
You can't do it.
no, I can't, because that whole weekend that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm gonna be.
Do you remember last year at Antrim? This is the Antrim meeting, only it's Frederick's turn to host. And we have a better speaker than ever, but I get it, you can't. Maybe Brett wants to come.
I'll be out of town.
What time is it?
I do not know, I apologize.
6:30-ish, I think.
And it will have the great food and beverage like they had that time from.
Well, maybe not as good as Antrim. Antrim had shrimp and stuff, but there'll at least be Cheez-Its and pretzels, I can promise you that.
Is it a Weinberg or that,
Except the Weinberg. Yeah, I think they can accommodate 500 people.
My wife would probably be with Grace. So I'll work on her to
I'll work
come.
on her to come, definitely. Yes, but anyway, that doesn't get us out of November 1's conundrum,
yes.
since chunks of us are about not here. Can't help it. Can we do it the next Wednesday, the 8th?
I can do that.
Can you do the 8th, Kevin?
Sure.
So can we propose to Josh and Grace the 8th?
Yes, we can.
And city staff doesn't have a conflict on November 8th?
No, we do not.
That's a surprise. We're that easy, I would have done it a month ago. Only this month.
We'll coordinate with Josh and Grace for the 8th. At the least, if we three make it, we know we'll have quorum.
Exactly.
And then we'll also coordinate with Josh and Grace on attending the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area annual meeting. Okay.
I have one more item before we go to commissioner reports of new business.
I have a question, are we meeting at 6 or 7 o'clock on the 8th? Do we wanna meet like an hour earlier, do we need to meet an hour
I
earlier?
think we already have a city time zone. We're supposed to be meeting with the city for our next 250th.
Alright, well,
I think it's at 7 o'clock. I think it's another 7 o'clock meeting. Let's put it that way. Something that escaped my notice when we set up the agenda, and if you want to put it under historic district commission comments or something, Mark?
Yeah.
So we never did approve what the prize would be for History Day. We talked a lot about giving a monetary prize away and said we would do it. And that was last spring. Now we're in a new budget year. And frankly, now is the time to advertise what we're going to give. And usually there's 4 categories. So if we give a monetary prize, it will have to be for winner 1, winner 2 of senior, and winner 1, winner 2 of junior applicants. We may not have that many in the local competition for our topic of Westminster and history and architecture. But imagining we got 4 eligible folks, how much of a monetary gift would we make available? We gotta start advertising that with the school system so they start working on their projects. I kind of heard before that we felt $1,000 total would be a great incentive. $250 per student would be an incentive enough.
yeah,
How do you feel? I mean, you think that's okay?
I'm
I
fine
think
with
that's
that.
enough to drop the bucket $1,000, and if that 250 would be embedded for a student to other, as opposed to a $25 gift card.
Well, we only have a sum total budget of $1,500 this year, is that correct?
I believe we have that increased to 3,000.
There you go. Well, so 1,000 isn't gonna stretch us too badly. So may I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we offer a total $1,000 for 4 prizes for the essay writing contest for the for
National History Day.
National History Day.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Great, so now that's official in the record. And I can go to Joe Thomas tomorrow, Thompson, I think his name is, and Ryan Melthorn, who are running it, and tell them that they can advertise that on their website, that we are offering more than simply a letter of congratulations. That we actually have a cash prize. Exciting, good. I wish I had done that last month, to be honest. All right, so now we're at the point for Historic District Commission comments, and other than that comment, I can't think of anything else. How about you, Chris?
none.
I don't have anything either. I think so. Well,
We have a slot for public comments. Do we have any comments from Greg?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then if there is nothing else for the good of the historic preservation in the city of Westminster, I will call this meeting adjourned.